Hi, my name's Ian Bandy. I'm from Washington State, and this is my build, the Siege of Przemyśl in 1915. So the Siege of Przemyśl was the largest and longest siege of the First World War. It lasted for about 6 months, and it ended with a crushing defeat of the Austro-Hungarian military by the Russian Empire, and is considered one of Russia's greatest victories of the First World War. It was a very big turning point on the Eastern Front, and had some major consequences we can get into a little bit later. But the general gist of it is it's the largest siege, and it had probably one of the biggest impacts. It caused about 2 million casualties. When the Austro-Hungarians surrendered, they surrendered around 120,000 men, 700 artillery pieces, and 9 generals, so it was a pretty crushing defeat. But yeah, it's kind of like the general history of it, so yeah.
So take us through the details of the build then here. What sides do we have on which side here?
Yeah, so we can start with the trench line. So the trench line is based off of the topographical map of the actual fortress, which was graciously supplied to me by the History Museum in Poland for the city Przemyśl. So I kind of wanted to do a mixture of both the grill tile trench technique and a brick-built trench technique. All of it's on snot, so it's all stud snot on top with tiles holding it up. And then I wanted to bomb out crater right here with some of the trenches and a wheat field. So the trench should be maybe 5 base plates back realistically, but I wanted it in the build just so people can have something else to look at other than just a fort and plain fields. But I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Obviously we got some action going on in the trench, but I think it came up pretty good. There's a few things I would probably change up a little bit, but I think for the most part, the wheat field, it works with how I had it out. I wasn't very sure if I wanted it in, but I think it adds a little bit more to the build. So yeah.
Just kind of nice differentiation from the stark kind of fort look of the gray there.
Yeah.
So when it came to minifigs here, what was your approach for each side or some of the details and uniforms?
So pretty much all of the minifigures on here are sponsored by Brick Fabric and Panzer Brick Labs, and then Crazy Bricks also sponsored us, so that was pretty great. So all the trench coats you see on the minifigures, Russian and Austro-Hungarian, are sponsored by Brick Fabric, and he did a great job. He supplied 50 or 60 of them, and then a lot of the arms on the Austro-Hungarians, Russians, and Hungarians are printed by Eric from Panzer Brick Lab, so that was gracious help. Without them, I would not have been able to do this. So it adds a lot of immersion too, so he did a great job on that. And then other than that, there's a few CB figures mixed into it with it, and some Brickmania stuff, some of the helmets is Brickmania, and most of the guns is brick arms, so yeah.
And that brings us into the fort section itself. So how did that kind of come together for you, and what was the sort of source material like as you were kind of building that section?
Yeah, so the actual fort itself is a one-on-one recreation of this picture. So I've been fascinated with this picture for about 5 years, and I really wanted to do something. I wasn't sure how big I wanted it to be, but I eventually decided to basically build from the end to end of the picture. So it's about half the size of the front of the fort. So it's a majority of the front of the fort, but it really started with that side over there with the big bombed out section of the fort. That was pretty fun to build. Most of the rubble is brick built, it's not just sitting there, and it was very fun and interesting to try to. I wanted it to be as accurate as possible, so I wanted to get the rubble as close as I could get to the picture, which is very hard to do. But I think it came out pretty good. I mean, obviously there's going to be some inaccuracies with Lego. You're not going to ever get it perfect, but I think for the most part it came out pretty good. And then the doors were interesting to build. So it's on an offset plate a little bit. So it's held up by there's a brick structure inside with the jumper plates in the middle of the brick structure, and then you have a tile on a main plate to hold the door kind of at that super inch off, It's kind of because if you see in the picture, it's indented a little bit, and I couldn't just use the regular jumper plates to get that indent, so I had to really kind of mess around to get that slightest indent. So that was really fun to figure out. It's a total mess inside, structure-wise, but it came out really good, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Do you find that kind of challenge is enjoyable when you're trying to get kind of just right for the dimensions of everything?
Oh yeah, it's so fun to do all that challenging stuff. There's a lot of stuff on this that really pushed my limits. Because I don't know, I love doing that like, really technical stuff and like trying to find out those like really niche techniques and like skill sets to kind of get an accurate picture. But other than that, so we got both the bunkers right here, or like whatever you call it, like gun positions, and then this collapsed bunker, this one right up here, that was very difficult to figure out for how weird the dimensions of were it. So it's sitting on the Technic ball joint. Most of the walls are sitting on the Technic ball joint, kind of angled down, and then the inside is a mix of brick built and non-brick built rubble. So some of it's sitting on top of it, some of it's not, some of it's also on ball joints, but it was pretty fun to come together. Actually, it's like pretty sturdy, surprisingly. Like it survived the plane flight mostly, so I was pretty surprised by that. But that came together really well. And then same thing for the bombed out section of the fort right here. It's pretty much all brick built with a few things that aren't, but for the most part, it's all brick built.
One of the things that really stands out here is the explosion technique. So you've got some unique elements in there. What are some of the ways that kind of came together?
Yeah, so I do my explosions pretty different from a lot of people. I know some people use like the what do you call it, like shell pieces, you know, but I wanted to try something different, so I use a Travis brick with the 6-piece leaves on it, and then I pop the cones on it with the orange flowers or whatever you call it, and kind of expand out there with like the flame pieces and like some the ice cream cone pieces. And I think both techniques have their ups and downs. I think I like this a little bit more, but I'm willing to try out some other techniques. I think it could use some work on it, but I think it looks good for the most part.
So you mentioned flying here. How does this break down for transport, and what was set up like once you got to BrickFair?
So I flew from Washington. So, it's about a 5-hour plane flight. The build itself comes down into 12 sections. So the trench base plates and the fort base plates are all 48 by 48. So there's 8 48 by 48, and then a row of 16 by 32s in the back. And it collapses down into, I can fit it into 3 Pelican cases, which is kind of shocking, but the build itself survived for the most part. There's definitely some damage on the back base plates where the upper bunkers are. So I had to rebuild a little bit Tuesday night before the con, but I got it rebuilt, and other than that, it survived. I mean, there's definitely some things that I needed to pop down. So, but for flying from Washington, I'm shocked it's mostly survived.
Now, there's some interior details around the side here.
So one thing I wanted to get was the interiors of the fort. So when I reached out to the museum in Przemyśl, because there's no pictures of the interior of the fort, so that was a big problem, was finding source materials. They greatly helped, but they were telling me basically how they had the medic rooms and the bunker and the tunnels laid out. So it was very interesting to figure out like what how I wanted to do it. So the bunker wall, the interior wall itself is on snot, so it's all studs on top. So you can just pop it out actually, right here. It pops out like that, and you just can pop it right back in. So it's pretty easy to break down and transport, and you can slide the top off because the top is also snuds on top, but it's also just like sitting on the actual like walls itself. It's a very weird technique, and requires a lot of time and parts, but I think it came out pretty well. I wanted to expand I wanted the tunnel to go all the way through the fort, but time just did not allow me to do that, unfortunately. But I will try that next year for next year's build.
So this is really unique source material with it being World War I and also the Russian front, which isn't something we see depicted a lot with the historical Lego builds. So what kind of first drew you to this particular battle?
Mainly, you don't really hear anyone talk about Eastern Front, World War I stuff, and especially the Siege of Przemyśl. I mean, like this siege had such an immense importance on the war itself. Like, for instance, when the fort fell, like the main fortress ring of Przemyśl fell, a big reason why the French removed all their big guns from Verdun was because they witnessed how heavily damaged the forts were from big Russian siege artillery, and that was a big reason why all the big forts of like Fort Dumont, Vaux, and a few of the other ones fell during the Battle of Verdun. So it had some pretty long-ranging effects. It also led to Austro-Hungary fighting Italy on the Italian front. Italy declared war on Austro-Hungary because Italy saw that they were weak as heck after this, and they were. I'm amazed that Austro-Hungary survived any longer past 1915. It's kind of a miracle. And another big thing was like just researching this. Like I learned a lot of things that I didn't understand before. Mainly that Russia actually is like competent. They executed this siege perfectly, and it's a really great textbook example of how not to conduct yourself during a siege if you're Austro-Hungary. Konrad von Hotzendorf, the Austro-Hungarian supreme commander, really made it a goal of his during all the winter offensives to relieve the fortress, and a big reason why their casualties were so high is that they viewed this fortress as like kind of Verdun for the French. So if this fortress fell to them, it would be like a national catastrophe. And I mean, it did falling, and it definitely had a massive effect on public morale and like the war effort. Since it was like the pristine fortress of the East, so it was like described as the Verdun of the East, and you can definitely see it in the layout of the fortresses and how people talk about Przemyśl before and after the war. So it was very interesting to read all that and find out about all that. But yeah, it's very interesting to me that like when you talk to people about this, they don't hear about the Great Siege of Przemyśl. I mean, casualties for this can go anywhere from 1.2 million to 2 million, and you never hear about it. And it's kind of blows my mind. So I really wanted to give it a voice for people to learn and understand like the history and like all that. So and it was a very big personal interest to me. I'm kind of a Russophile and Austro-Hungarian file, so I'm very interested in that like area of history. So and like their tactics and government, all that.
Well, thank you for not only the incredible build, but sharing that history with us too. And it's great that you're kind of helping the public learn here at BrickFair too. So amazing work here. Thank you so much. If people want to see more from you, do you post your builds online?
Yes, I post on Instagram, YouTube, and Flickr on all handles. My name is Lazy Bricks, so you can go follow me, check me out. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Yep, keep up the great work.